Sunday at MetLife Stadium, two teams that had low expectations entering the season meet. One of them is actually exceeding those expectations. We're breaking down Jets-Panthers today on our Locked On NFL crossover show.
You are Locked On NFL crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome, Jets fans and Panthers fans. I'm John Butchko, the host of Locked On Jets, alongside Julian Council, the host of Locked On Panthers. We're here to get you ready for the Carolina Panthers coming to MetLife Stadium this Sunday to take on the New York Jets. You should know that Crossover Thursday is presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Well, Julian, great to be with you. I think the last time the Jets and Panthers met, it was the season opener in 2021. It was Sam Darnold's debut with the Panthers, Zach Wilson's debut with the Jets, and very different times in some ways, and in other ways not so different because the Jets are still terrible.
Yeah, some things change, some things stay the same, and that certainly, unfortunately, has been the case up there for the Jets. As you looked at it, that was dubbed as the Sam Darnold revenge game. When if you watch Sam back when Adam Gase was just doing a terrible job as head coach up there in New York, I mean, he wasn't good. It wasn't like the Jets had any reason to believe that Sam would be what he is today. And Zach Wilson, that did not work out as well. And now you guys are trying out Justin Fields. So I certainly feel for you and all the Jets fans out there, as it just never seems to be getting any better. And Sunday against Denver, watching that one when I was in the press box at Carolina, waiting for the game that they played recently against Dallas, just like, man, what on earth am I watching here? But for Carolina, things have actually been on the up and up. So things at least have changed for the Panthers since that time. And honestly, talk about it, that was 2021. That's the last time Carolina was 500. And coincidentally, here they are 500 after that win against Dallas on Sunday.
Well, we have plenty of time to go into the disaster that is the 2025 New York Jets. Let's start off with some positivity. What's the big story in Carolina this week?
Yeah, the big story really is the fact that they have won back-to-back games. And as I just mentioned a moment ago, they are 500 for the first time since week 10 of the 2021 season. And the last time that they had a 3-game winning streak, and that would occur if they win this game on Sunday, was when they started off the 2021 season with a win against the Jets there in week 1 here in Carolina, then beating New Orleans and also winning on the road on Thursday Night Football against Houston. So really the question for everybody in the headline is, can they continue the momentum of the past 2 weeks, and really the momentum on the ground, as Rico Dowdle has been spectacular for Carolina, rushing for 389 yards the past 2 weeks. Looking at his from scrimmage yards, last week was a franchise record, 239 yards. He has been outstanding, and that's been while Chuba Hubbard has been out with a calf injury. Now, Chuba did say in the locker room on Wednesday he expects to be out there on Sunday. How those guys are going to split their carries, we don't know. But one thing I do know is that the Panthers have a really good situation with their running backs and Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard over the last couple of weeks and heading into the rest of the season. So really, can they avoid what would be a bad loss for Carolina? I know the Jets open up as favorites. That's since shifted to Carolina being a favorite on the road, where so far this season they are 0-3 and really haven't been all that competitive in most of those games. They had to come back against Arizona, that fell short. And Derek Brown did say in the locker room on Monday that they would be fools, his words, not mine, to overlook the Jets, considering the Panthers 2 years ago were 0-6 and in this position before they beat Houston. Then last year they were 1-7. So Carolina is familiar with bad starts, and they know the desperation of a team like New York. So can they avoid that loss? Can they get the 3-3 and then have a big litmus test the next 2 weeks against Buffalo at home, then on the road in Green Bay?
Julian, the Jets have not made the playoffs since 2011. So sometimes when the Jets are about to play a team, like I look at how that team's done since 2011. That was the year the Panthers had the number 1 pick in the draft, and they picked Cam Newton, who is now retired. So the number 1 pick in the draft, the year the Jets playoff drought started, is now retired. That speaks volumes about the direction of this franchise. But the Panthers, of course, have another number 1 overall pick playing quarterback for them right now. For Jets fans who haven't really followed closely, how's Bryce Young looking this year?
Yeah, Bryce has had an up and down season so far. He started off the year just really poorly like he did last year. He had the turnovers against Jacksonville and Arizona on the road that both led to 10 points, and you just can't spot your opponents that amount of points, especially when you're the Panthers and you're not yet to the talent level to win every single Sunday when that happens. Now, they did overcome it 2 weeks ago against your AFC East rivals, Miami, as they gave up 14 points there, both off of Bryce Young turnovers. But after that, Bryce really made some big plays in that game. There was a fourth down where he rolled out, was able to find Tyrell McMillan, a touchdown pass to Xavier Legette. Then on that final drive that they got the lead in that game, nice throw to Legette, a nice throw to Jimmy Horn Jr., then a touchdown and a game-winning touchdown to Mitchell Evans. So I think Bryce has been solid the last couple of weeks. The only thing is, like, the passing game isn't necessarily explosive at this point in time. And a big reason that is Xavier Legette didn't play 2 games. He's even had his struggles so far this season. Tyrell McMillan's been outstanding, though, and they haven't had Jalen Coker yet. He may make his debut on Sunday up there in MetLife Stadium. They're still trying to figure out JT Sanders. He's been dealing with an ankle. We'll see if he's back. So they haven't had all their pieces there. And the offensive line's been banged up, but it has not been a problem at all. So Bryce, he's been fine. He's been playing his 111, something that Dave Canales talks all the time. But we're not at the point here in Carolina just yet where you feel completely comfortable with him and think that he absolutely will be the franchise quarterback for the Panthers moving forward.
Well, I can tell you the era where Jets fans felt good about Justin Fields lasted 1 week. He was phenomenal week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and ever since then, it's not been very good. And that, I'll tell you, Julian, you know, you mentioned you were in the press box watching the game last week in London. You sitting in the press box had more net passing yards than Justin Fields did. Negative 10 net passing yards for the Jets. Ugly performance, and things could get uglier because Garrett Wilson is injured, suffered a hyperextended knee, and I'm not really sure where he's going to throw the ball because Locked On Jets all year. One of the things I've been saying is that the player the Jets cannot afford to lose is Garrett Wilson. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that the receiver group the Jets will put on the field Sunday in this game is going to be one of the worst receiver groups in recent memory. You have Josh Reynolds, who is probably the best receiver other than Garrett Wilson, and he may not play. He was on the injury report on Wednesday. He missed practice. After that, you've got Alan Lazard, who was a free agent signing a couple of years ago, had some degree of chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, but the year Aaron Rodgers missed, Lazard was a healthy scratch for a game or two. I mean, that's the point of that too, even as a big free agent signing, and he has really not been a factor this year. You've got Tyler Johnson, who's a career depth receiver. You've got Arian Smith, who's a 4th-round pick out of Georgia, and really has not done a whole lot. 4 catches for 24 yards.
No, he's a gadget guy, and like I'm honestly shocked that a team was willing to draft him that high. Because like you look at Georgia last year, like I don't know how much college football you watch, John, but Georgia's issues offensively last year, in large part offensive line injuries, but the receiving core is terrible. And Arian Smith was a part of that. Like he had decent numbers on paper, but if people watch the game, like that's not the kind of guy that you want to have in your like top 3 of an NFL rotation, which appears to be the case right now with the Jets. And never mind what Malachi Corley, who they drafted last year, no longer around. So great job, Joe Douglas, who of course is no longer there with that job. That's a tough situation that the Jets got going on right now.
You hear that, Jets fans? It's not just me saying this stuff. The objective observer is saying that Arian Smith was a very shaky pick in the 4th round.
Terrible pick. Should have been like an undrafted player. I don't know how anyone takes him.
That's what's going on with the Jets right now. The passing game is not in good shape. Well, I'll be diplomatic and say the passing game is not in good shape. So, you know, I know maybe mixed results with Bryce Young, but as always, it could be worse for the other 31 teams, and the could be worse scenario is playing itself out in New York right now.
Yeah, and mixed results are still results, John.
Yes. What we wouldn't give for some of those in New York. But ahead here on our Locked On crossover episode today, we're going to get to the key matchups. Which battles will decide this game? That's what Julian and I will talk about ahead here on Crossover Thursday here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Our Locked On crossover today is brought to you by Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly payments, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. You can say yes and make the switch and get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint makes it all simple. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and texts delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can even bring your own phone and keep your same number in contacts. Ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for 3 months, for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigs on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Our Locked On crossover today is also brought to you by Built. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it. That's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards that you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed towards hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. But Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding your entire neighborhood. With Built, your rent finally works for you. You're earning points every month on something you already love. Built makes everyday life feel more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's joinbilt.com/LockedOnNFL. Make sure to use that link so they know we sent you. All right, crossover Thursday here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm John Butchko, the host of Locked On Jets, alongside Julian Council, the host of Locked On Panthers. Getting you ready for this Sunday, the Carolina Panthers coming to MetLife Stadium to take on the winless New York Jets. Julian, as you look at this game, what's one matchup you're looking at that you think could play a role in deciding this one?
Yeah, there's two in particular I'm looking at, but the first one is the Panthers running game versus the Jets run defense. Carolina, after Monday Night Football, is now third in the NFL in rushing. And when you look at some of the advanced stats over on True Media, they're third in rushing success rate and second in total rush EPA. Meanwhile, the Jets defensively are 24th in run defense, but actually pretty good when you look at some of the bigger numbers, like second in successful play rate on defensive rushes and seventh in defensive total rush EPA. So I'll be interested to see when Chuba Hubbard gets back out there, of course, what the split's going to look like with him and Rico Dowdle. And Dowdle, again, over the last 2 weeks, 389 yards rushing, a 58.5 success rate. Hubbard's missed the last 2 weeks of a calf injury. And when he gets back in there, I expect that he's going to play well. And I'm expecting that Rico will also play well. And I asked him if it would be beneficial to have Chuba back just for his physical health, because at the end of these games, the last 2 weeks where Rico has been excellent, he's actually had to come out because of a cramp, and Trevor Etienne had to close out the game. So having Rico fresh and having Chuba fresh, that could be a dynamic duo that really could carry this Panthers offense moving forward, especially if the Panthers passing game continues just to be so. I think it'll get better once JT Sanders and Jalen Coker get back out there. But they're not going to be asked to really do a ton as long as they can run the ball. And really, if you can control the line of scrimmage, which they have been able to do with the offensive line, even as they were missing Austin Corbett, they're missing Robert Hunt, they're missing Chandler Zavala, a backup who had to start a couple of games. They're in a good spot the way they've run the ball over the last couple of weeks, and just adding Chuba Hubbard back to the fold against a Jets run defense, which, just looking at the normal stats, maybe not great. Looking deeper, seems to be maybe a top 10 rush defense. You tell me how you feel about them, but that's really the matchup I'm looking at, is Panthers running game, in particular, Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard together against this Jets run defense on Sunday.
Yeah, it's funny. I would probably split the difference and say the Jets are middle of the pack type run defense.
Yeah.
Which for the, that's maybe the best part of the Jets. Anything with the 2025 Jets that's middle of the pack is looking like the 85 Bears. But I very much the same mindset. I think the Panthers run game versus the Jets run defense. I key in on Quinnen Williams and Harrison Phillips against the interior of the Panthers line. So Damian Lewis, Cade Mays, Brady Christensen. I could repeat a lot of what you said, but I think for the Jets in this game, because of how inconsistent the Panthers passing attack is, and you mentioned there's some injuries at the Panthers receiver group. I think for the Jets, the key is slowing down the run in this game, and the Jets have issues on a lot of spots on their roster, but one spot where they've been relatively good this year is at the defensive tackle spot. Now they have Quinnen Williams, who's two-time Pro Bowler. He was a first-team All-Pro. You go back to 2022. It's been an interesting year. Yeah, it's been an interesting year, Julian, because he's been okay as a pass rusher. I thought he may have had his best pass rushing game of the year in London against Denver. Where he's really excelled, though, is in run defense. And Harrison Phillips was a guy the Jets acquired near the end of training camp. They made a couple of free agent signings that did not pan out. In fact, one guy they actually traded, Derek Nottie. They got Harrison Phillips. They also made a second trade for Jawan Briggs, who's kind of like the number 2 nose tackle on the team. I think they've actually gotten pretty good play from those guys. So, a team where a lot of their additions have not worked out, they've actually gotten some decent play from the defensive tackle spot. But I know the Carolina interior line's been excellent so far this year, particularly, in the run game. So I think this is going to be a really interesting matchup.
Yeah, and it will be too, because you talk about that. Like Cade Mays has had to fill in over the last couple of weeks for Austin Corbett at center. Now, Corbett did have his practice window opened up on Wednesday. They were not in pads. They'll be on pads on Thursday. And he was saying on Wednesday that, yeah, I feel good, but I can't really know until I'm actually out there banging around in pads. So I don't expect that he'll be out there on Sunday. I think it's going to be something where they let him ramp up a little bit longer. He has 21 days to be activated or be placed on season-ending IR. Obviously, they would place him on the active roster at that point in time. But we'll see how that goes. But as far as the offensive line interior-wise, yes, they have been really good. Damian Lewis has been wrecking dudes at left guard. They've been pulling him a ton to the right side over the last couple of weeks. Cade Mays, again, has been good. Brady Christensen, who's finally got an opportunity there at right guard, he's played well. Taylor Moton on the right side as well. He didn't even play last week, and they still were able to road grade Dallas in that game. Now, the Cowboys, not a great run defense at all. And I'm very curious, too, just as far as, like, we look at the matchups here with the Jets defense overall. Like, Steve Wilkes was the interim head coach here in Carolina and had a really good argument as he was able to turn that team around a couple of years ago from a team that I believe started 1-6 to getting them to be 500 in the games that he coached in those final. So I guess they were 1-5. I can't do the math, but they were off to a bad start. But he had him 500 at the end of his during his tenure there, and he did not get the job. And I am well aware that he's not a big fan of the owner, David Tepper, and this is an opportunity for maybe to get a little revenge on his perspective as a DC, but we'll see. One other thing I'm looking at too is the Panthers pass rush versus the Jets pass protection. The Panthers lost their starting outside linebacker, Pat Jones, II, to a lower back injury that's going to cost him the rest of the season. You look at it right now, Carolina, they're dead last in PFF pressure percentage at 24%. If you look at Pro Football Reference, it's even worse. Their models have them at 8.4% pressure rate, which is not good at all. They only have 5 sacks, which is worse than the NFL. Conversely, though, the Jets, they are allowing a PFF pressure percentage of 51.1%. They've allowed 112 pressures and 25 sacks on the season, including 9 on Sunday. But here's the thing. Sacks are not an offensive line stat. They're a quarterback stat. And if anyone watched that game on Sunday in London, they understand that it's not the Jets' offensive line, which isn't good, but it's not their fault what happened on Sunday. Justin Fields, I was looking at this number over on True Media. He has an average clean time to throw of 2.5 seconds. That's the second most in the NFL behind Jalen Hurts up there in Philadelphia, where they actually have a good offensive line. He's holding on to the ball too damn long. And if he does that again on Sunday, maybe this Panthers pass rush, which hasn't really gotten a lot of pressure, will get a lot of pressure. So that's another matchup I'm looking at. Really, it's the Panthers pass rush versus will Justin Fields throw the damn ball?
I think you hit the nail on the head. And, I think next gen stats had the average time to sack was 5.75 seconds in Denver's 9 sacks on Sunday. I mean, it was ugly. And that's, that's the thing is, like, sometimes the quarterback's his own worst enemy in pass protection. I'll give you my second matchup. It's actually a coaching matchup. It's Tanner Angstrand, the Jets offensive coordinator, against Ejiro Evero, the Panthers defensive coordinator. And the reason I say that is with Garrett Wilson out, the Jets are really going to have to try to figure out ways to manufacture offense. And I think a lot of it's going to have to be, especially in the passing game, it's going to have to be play design. The Jets are going to need to lean on the screen game, and Jets really did not get to the screens much on Sunday, which did not make a lot of sense because the Jets were having a lot of trouble with the blitz. Maybe it was Justin Fields who was having trouble with the blitz, but Fields was also not seeing the field well. And, if you're having issues with the blitz and your quarterback's having issues reading the defense, you should get to the screen game a little bit better. But I just think the Jets are going to need to really fine tune their passing concept. They're going to need to scheme guys open, because I don't think the Jets have a single receiver on this team with Garrett Wilson out that can create separation. And big problem for the team is that Fields himself is not a quarterback who throws with a lot of anticipation. Fields is very much a type of quarterback where he needs to see a guy break open before he throws the ball. And I think that was the source of a lot of his troubles on Sunday, because the Broncos were playing a lot of very tight coverage. Guys weren't breaking open. And I think that Fields gets a little hesitant in those situations. Fields hasn't thrown an interception yet this year. So, the one thing you will say for him is that he protects the football. So with his hesitation, maybe doesn't turn it over, but it kind of limits the passing game. So I think the Jets coaching staff's really going to have to put together a good game plan to try and figure out how to move the ball through the air.
Yeah, and you look at Denver as well. Like, that's a team that blitzes a lot. Like, that's what Vance Joseph defenses do, and they are right now 4th in the NFL in blitz percentage when looking over at True Media. Well, Carolina's only 21st. They haven't really tried to manufacture a ton of pass rush so far this season. Maybe they tried a little bit more on Sunday because of the state of the Jets' offensive line, but really the state of Justin Fields not getting rid of the ball on time. So we'll see if they decide to try to scheme it up, maybe get Carolina on the okie doke. But I don't know if Carolina's going to even want to do that. If they can just stand there and try to make Justin Fields read the defense, I think they probably should have enough success in that respect. And you look at last week, the way the Jets play, they play a zone defense, so they don't move their corners next to with the number one guy. So that's been a point of contention with the fan base. JC Horn actually did ask at the end of that game last Sunday to go cover George Pickens as he was just dicing up Mike Jackson on the other side in that game. Shouldn't really be an issue this weekend, just based off of the fact that Garrett Wilson's not out there and the state of the Jets wide receiver room.
Yeah, I mean, if you follow PFF grades, which I think PFF grades have their positives and negatives, but
mainly
the number one receiver would be Josh Reynolds, who's currently the 89th highest graded receiver, and he's injured. He may be injured, so if we go to that, I don't think the Jets would have a receiver in the top 115 playing in this game. So. Not good. But ahead here on our crossover Thursday edition of Locked On Jets and Locked On Panthers, you've heard the big stories around these teams. You've heard the key matchups. We're going to get into keys to victory. What do the Jets and Panthers need to do to win this game? We'll tell you as we continue here on our crossover Thursday episodes of Locked On Jets and Locked On Panthers. Today's crossover Thursday edition of Locked On Jets and Locked On Panthers is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel the craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. It's Crossover Thursday here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm John Butchko, the host of Locked On Jets, alongside Julian Council, the host of Locked On Panthers, getting you ready for Week 7 action. New York Jets at 0-6, looking for the first win. The surprising Carolina Panthers looking to go over 500. Julian, let's talk keys to victory.
Yeah, let's do it. So the 3 ones I have for Carolina right now: continue the success on the ground. They've been outstanding so far the last 2 weeks, especially as Rico Dowdle has run all over Miami and Dallas, respectively. 2 not great defenses against the run. Now the Jets, as you look at it, one stat says not all that great. The other say, okay, top 10. You watching it, you say middle of the road. And I think that's probably fair when you have such a disparity between just the basic total yardage and some of the more advanced analytics. But this should be a team that Carolina should be able to have success against. Now, Quinnen Williams, he obviously is a menace there at defensive tackle. So we'll see how they're able to block him in the run game. But I expect that Carolina, even bringing in Chuba Hubbard, and maybe there's going to be a little learning curve there, trying to get both Rico and Chuba touches and getting those guys in rhythm. I'm expecting them to have success again on the ground on Sunday. Number 2, get pressure on Justin Fields. If you're able to do that, whether that's him holding on to the ball too long, you actually being able to get those pressures off the edge or in the interior, that's going to lead to mistakes, and that's going to lead to a Panthers victory on Sunday. And then number 3, stay in the fight, man. You look at the road game so far. They're 0-3 on the road, 3-3 at home. At some point in time, the tide's got to turn. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen on the road this Sunday against the Jets of all teams, I would think. And they haven't given themselves an opportunity in a lot lot of these road games. They did not give themselves an opportunity against Jacksonville as they got down 20-3 at halftime. The next week they were down 20-3 again in that game against Arizona. And then against New England, they got blitzed. They were up 6-0. Things were going fine. And then they gave up the punt return touchdown. Marcus Jones couldn't stop the run on the next drive. And the rest is history as New England ran off and won 42-13. Now against this team, Jackson, you look at it, not bad. They beat the Chiefs. They're 4-2. New England, clearly, they're top of the division right now in the AFC East. So it looks like they're pretty doggone good. At Arizona, they're in free fall mode since that game. Like, this is a game that Carolina has to be in the whole time. There's no reason they should be getting down by 3 touchdowns, hell, even 2 touchdowns in this game. This is one where you have to stay in the fight on the road. Whatever demons that they have right now, you got to overcome those because, like, of all games against all teams, like, this is the one you have to have on the road.
I hear that a lot this year. I'll give you my keys. Number one is I think the Jets need to have a more diverse set of run plays. Heading into the season, I thought that this was going to be a very creative rushing attack, and it kind of has to be when Justin Fields is your quarterback. We know that Fields is still a work in progress as a pocket passer, but he can make things happen with his legs. And I've been surprised at not the types of plays the Jets have run and the volume Fields has gotten or not gotten. He has not had more than 7 rushing attempts since week 1. And, if you go back to his best season in 2022 with Chicago, he was averaging almost 11 rushing attempts per game. Now, some of these are coming on scrambles. And one of the things with Justin Fields is that while he's a very talented runner, he doesn't always pick his spots well on scrambles. But that's not something the coach can really control. What the coach can control are the types of run plays they execute. And for Fields against Denver on Sunday, the only rushing plays that the Jets ran, he outside of his scrambles, they ran a couple quarterback sneaks in short yardage situations, and then a couple very basic zone reads from the shotgun. No real eye candy, no motion, and I don't think that can work with Justin Fields as quarterback. I think if you're going to lean into the run game to replace some of the passing that you're not going to get, you have to kind of disguise things better, and you have to run a more diverse set of plays. I think it's been one of my biggest disappointments with the new offensive coordinator Tanner Engstrand. I mean, the most creative the Jets have gotten is they'll put Max Mitchell, a backup offensive lineman, in there along with 2 tight ends. They'll run these jumbo packages. But you're not seeing the Justin Fields utilized with his rushing ability nearly to the extent that I was expecting, or that I think the Jets offense should be running. I think that's one of the sources of the Jets offensive struggles. Number 2 is, I would say, keep the adjustments that you made last week on defense. I'll be honest, Julian, I have not been a fan of Steve Wilks. I have been very critical of Steve Wilks. And I feel bad because you just mentioned he's a popular guy in the Panthers fan base. I've said after a couple of games, I've never seen a coordinator who deserved to be fired more than Steve Wilks. So sorry, Carolina fans. But they made some changes last week. Some of them were personnel changes. One of them was they got Jermaine Johnson back from injury. Jermaine Johnson suffered an ankle injury week 2 against the Buffalo Bills. The Jets really missed him at the defensive end spot. This is a defensive line with some good talent in Jermaine Johnson, Quinnen Williams, and I think Will McDonald, even though he's not having a great year. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of depth, though. And when they lost Jermaine Johnson, it was felt. I think when he was back last week, that had something to do with why they had their best defensive game of the year. But there were a couple other personnel changes. The rookie Malachi Moore stepped into the starting lineup for Tony Adams at safety. Adams has been really struggling. Moore had looked pretty decent as a part-time player. Finally got into the lineup full-time last week. I thought looked good. Jarvis Brownlee Jr. stepped in at slot corner for an injured Michael Carter II. Carter had been struggling in the slot. Brownlee was a guy the Jets just traded for from Tennessee. He forced the first Jets turnover of the season. He stripped the ball away on the first series. And I thought the Jets also made a few schematic changes. I thought they played more of like a bend but don't break style. Earlier in the season, they've been a lot more blitzing. Whatever they were doing worked. They cut down on the missed tackles. They held Denver to 13 points. They produced 2 points on the safety. So keep doing what you're doing, because they went from looking like the most undisciplined unit I've ever seen the first 5 games, between penalties, missed tackles, predictable blitzes, and they looked like a pretty good defense in against the Denver Broncos. And my third key is they have to figure out ways to get short fields. This offense is the personnel is what it is. All three scores the Jets had on Sunday against Denver came on the result of short fields, turnover, a couple of kickoff returns. So Jets need to figure out how to do that. And there are lots of different ways you can do it, but this offense is not going to be able to sustain long drives with this receiver group. And that's so I think that they need to help this offense out as much as they can, especially with Justin Fields struggling to the extent he is.
Yeah, and for Carolina, obviously you can't give them those short fields by making mistakes, and that's really the only way New York wins this game, just based off of where these teams are trending at this point in time. But the Jets, I mean, they're pros over there. They got good players defensively, as you mentioned. Maybe things haven't worked out so far with Wilkes, and he still, even when he was going on that run, there were some people who were like, we don't want Ron Rivera 2.0, as if like the Ron Rivera era was like a terrible era in Carolina. Like that's the best it's ever been here, which I mean, people can argue with me if they want about that. I just thought that was funny. And then just to hire Frank Reich and for him to get fired 11 games into it, it's like, maybe Steve Wilkes would have worked out. So I don't know. Hasn't worked out. It worked out for a year in San Francisco for Steve as they went to the Super Bowl. And I think in large part it's because the Niners and Kyle Shanahan and all that they have there. But yeah, very interesting game on Sunday from both perspectives. Like the Jets, if they can get that win, a little bit of heat off of the backs of that coaching staff, guys feeling good. You're not having to hear any we shoot ourselves in the head quotes from Breece Hall like we got a couple of weeks ago, which was just amazing. But yeah, for Carolina overall, like this is when you have to win. You win this, that's 3 straight wins. That's your 4-3. Now, how good are the teams that you would have beaten? Looking at Miami, they're not very good, obviously. Dallas, they're not that great. They're fine. And in Atlanta, I think is a lot better than what they showed a couple of weeks ago. But for a fact, we know that the Jets are not a good football team and are not going to be a good football team this season. Like this is a game that you got to have. So you get the 4-3, then you get Buffalo at home next week. You get Green Bay on the road after that. And we get to find out just how good this team is. But I'm going to sit here and tell you right now, John, I don't trust them. I don't trust this team to go up there and win this game. I think they should win the game. And I think that they will. But I mean, I still wouldn't be shocked if they didn't. That's I'll say that. Hope Panther fans aren't mad at me for believing that. But there's plenty of people who've already made the joke immediately after that game against Dallas. Like, watch them just go up there to New York and go lay an egg and lose that game against the Jets. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's not out the realm of possibility, my friend.
Let me put your mind at ease. You said Dallas isn't a very good team. Miami isn't a very good team. Well, they both beat the Jets pretty handily. So
yes, that's true.
You got to feel good from that standpoint. But anyway, Julian, always great chatting with you. I wish we could do this more than once every 4 years. But that's all for our crossover show today. Here at the Locked On Podcast Network, our motto is your team every day. We have new episodes of Locked On Jets and Locked On Panthers every day, Monday through Friday. So tune in tomorrow. Locked On Jets, Locked On Panthers. We'll continue previewing this game to get you ready for Sunday's matchup between the Jets and Panthers at MetLife Stadium.